All right, looks like we do have a little bit of lag. Hello, thank you for joining me. We have updates on Hurricane Milton. We've got some live update news ahead of the storm. There are multiple tornado outbreaks on the ground right now across Florida, and we also have reports coming in of fatalities already happening. So we're going to do some praying, and we're going to do some more focusing on parting the storm. The main thing I want everyone to focus on is raising the barometric pressure. The higher that number goes, the better off these folks are going to be. Okay. So let me just see if I can switch screens. Bear with me just a moment. Okay. So this says a small private plane carrying 4 passengers and a dog trying to evacuate ahead of Hurricane Milton has crashed into the ocean after the engine failed shortly after takeoff from St. Petersburg, Florida. Oh, they've updated it actually, and they have been rescued. That's great news.
Experiencing thoughts of suicide or a mental health or substance.
That is definitely great news there. As soon as that came up, my notifications, I was so worried. Let's see. Okay, now it seems like everything is locking up on me. Here we go. Let's see if I can get this to act right. Man, the lag is really bad. I apologize. Let me see if I can do a screen share again. It totally dropped me. There we go. Now it's going to move. Okay. This says live conditions are deteriorating. Tornadoes are tearing across Florida as Milton closes in for a 9 p.m. landfall now. 9 p.m. is when they're expecting it to make landfall. They've been pushing it back and changing the time. But as it gets closer, they've been able to better determine when to make landfall. So as of 2:30 today, Eastern Daylight Time, 15 tornado warnings were in effect for Central Florida as Hurricane Milton barreled toward the state. Damage has been reported at least 10 locations across the state today, including Fort Myers, where AccuWeather's Allie Reed has been reporting from this afternoon. There's some photographs of some of the damage from the tornadoes. St. Lucie area was also affected. Clewiston, Lake Okeechobee, and I don't know if I have it on here, but one of them showed a tornado going across the bridge at Fort Myer, and that was crazy, absolutely crazy. And there were 2 police officers sitting on the bridge. Let's see if we can watch this clip. Trying to get it to change. I apologize for the lag. Solar flares are really messing with the electronics. Okay, so this is just showing the tornado, and that's in Clewiston, Florida. All right, moving on. I want to take you to some of the news updates that have been happening. Because guys, this is serious stuff. Even with the hurricane lessening in power now, it's been downgraded to a category 4. It could even possibly be downgraded to a category 3 by the time it makes landfall. It's still a very dangerous, unprecedented hurricane. Um, one of these that I'm wanting to share with you actually shows this hurricane from space, and it is a monster. This is our live cam. This is the Just Weather live cam. If I can get it to load right so I can get it in a bigger screen for you. Here it goes. You can see that the winds are already picking up. The waves are already picking up. This storm surge that's coming is expected to be 15 feet tall, walls of rain, walls of water, um, waves coming at them, which is going to be very, very, very dangerous. I don't understand all these people out here taking photo ops. I just don't get it. Some people just really blow my mind. This is in Key West, where they're out there taking their selfies. It's all fun and games now, but it sure won't be in a little while. I hope they're going to be able to get to safety. Now, I think on this one, we're going to switch to this news feed because I think this is the news feed that actually shows the aerial view from the International Space Station. And I'm telling you what, this thing is incredible, guys. It is so unbelievably large. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. Let's take a listen.
All along Florida's Gulf Coast. Officials say this could be the most catastrophic storm to hit the Tampa area in more than a century. This is a live look at the radar as Milton churns its way through the Gulf of Mexico. The storm has fluctuated in strength throughout the morning, but it is expected to hold its intensity and make landfall later tonight as a Category 3 storm. As much as 15 feet of storm surge is expected in some areas along Florida's west coast. Milton will be the second potentially deadly storm to hit Florida in as many weeks. Many communities are
I
still.
just want to interrupt this for a minute to say to all of you, currently this hurricane is actually going across Mexico. Mexico is really getting it right now, guys. Let's not forget about all of those good men and women over there too. Let's pray for them and pray for their safety and their survival from this hurricane that's barreling toward Florida. This is not just about Floridians. This is not just about Americans. This is about human life.
Still reeling in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which killed at least 238 people.
Way
Rain
more
also
than that.
decimated some areas,
Way more
inundating
than
towns
that.
with floodwaters, downing power lines, and leaving debris scattered in the streets. Now, officials have expressed concerns that remnants from Helene could become projectiles once Milton makes landfall. This dramatic video I want to show you.
And I just want to say, in defense of all of the people doing the cleanup, I know that there's a lot of people really angry about how all of this uh, rubble and stuff could become projectiles and become very dangerous. Number one, they thought they had time to clean it up. Number two, they didn't expect to have another hurricane on their heels so quickly. So let's cut people some slack. Everybody's been through a lot. Tons of people from Florida went to North Carolina to help those good folks out, to help rescue them and make sure they survive. So they didn't feel like their cleanup and stuff was as imminent. Okay. Clearly they were wrong. Hindsight's always 2020. So let's not judge people right now, okay? And I just want you to take a look at this screen in front of you. This is the image of Hurricane Milton from the ISS. And look at the size of this monster. It takes up almost the whole view of the earth there, guys. This is a massive monster of a storm. I have never in my life seen such a big hurricane. And now I totally understand why I was getting visions of this thing long before I knew it was ever going to hit anything in America. It's a monster.
You now from the International Space Station demonstrates the incredible size of Milton. You see it swirling there as it approaches Florida's Gulf Coast. And it has already sparked tornadoes in the southern part of the state. The National Weather Service reported at least 2 so far since this morning. The state's also expected to warm up throughout the afternoon, and that is worrying because the heat can fuel severe thunderstorms in the area. Governor Ron DeSantis has issued a state of emergency in more than 50 of the state's 67 counties. He says there is still time to evacuate, but that time is limited. The state's airports are closed as millions of Floridians are urged to leave their homes in search of safety. And President Biden is urging everyone to heed the warnings.
To save lives and livelihoods, I want to emphasize a few things. First, many communities in Hurricane Milton's path do not have a moment to catch their breath between Helene and Milton. 2 historic storms in 2 weeks. I want to thank everyone who has followed local guidance to evacuate ahead of landfall. I know it's really tough, leaving behind your home, your belongings, everything you own. But I urge everyone in Hurricane Milton's path to follow all safety instructions as we head to the next 24 hours. It's literally a matter of life and death.
It literally is a matter of life and death. And I want to emphasize to you that there are many very poor people in the state of Florida who do not have the means, the financial ability, maybe they don't even have a vehicle to be able to leave. And they have chosen, by no other choice, they've chosen to hunker down and bear the brunt of this storm. So please keep those people in your prayers because not everyone is fortunate enough to have the finances and the means to flee this area, and they are staying behind. There are several people in shelters, and there are several people just staying in their homes. Please pray for their safety.
CBS News meteorologist and hurricane expert David Yeomans is tracking the storm for us. He's there in Chicago watching all of these different models for us. So, David, the biggest concern appears to be this potentially catastrophic storm surge. Remind our viewers exactly what that means, why it's so dangerous, and what specifically officials are predicting.
Lana, storm surge is the rise in the ocean level from a hurricane. And remember, it's not wind, it is indeed water that is the big killer with these storms. Live behind me, this is a view of the Sanibel Causeway near Fort Myers. You remember that bridge was destroyed in some areas just 2 years ago by Hurricane Ian. Here's the view from space. You saw from the International Space Station. This is our best high-resolution satellite up above the Gulf, looking at Hurricane Milton as it beelines for the Tampa and Sarasota area. We just got a brand new update, and the storm has continued to, we'll call it weaken. It's still a powerful Category 4. Winds just jumped down from 145 to 130 miles per hour. This storm may not weaken much more before landfall. Outer rain bands already producing a handful of tornado warnings. Now 3 confirmed touchdowns and counting in South and Central Florida. And notice the hurricane force winds in the orange and red are still offshore, but the yellow, that shows tropical storm force winds already on the west coast of Florida. You need to be in your storm shelter right now and stay in that safe place until the storm has passed. Here's the latest track from the Hurricane Center. Likely a high-end Category 3, low-end 4. Significant hurricane, one of the strongest to ever hit the west central coast of Florida. Landfall most likely between Tampa Bay and Fort Myers, possibly right over places like Sarasota. It maintains hurricane intensity after that, bringing hurricane force winds to Orlando and even some storm surge flooding to the east coast of Florida. Storm surge is a big concern, and wherever this eye makes landfall and just to the south, 10 to 15 feet of ocean level rise is expected. Lana, back to you.
Well, David, I want to follow up on a couple of these points because, as you rightfully note, people may be listening to us in their protective areas, watching us from safety. And part of what is concerning about this is not merely the tornadoes and the storm surge, but that it's expected to maintain hurricane status after hitting ground. And oftentimes we see that once it hits ground, it weakens. But Milton is kind of a different animal. Talk us through what people need to be aware of as they're hunkering down right now.
That's a very good point, Lana. I'm glad you touch on it. This storm is moving quickly, and sometimes there's an effect over Florida, namely a very swampy territory called the Brown Ocean. Basically, the hurricane needs the ocean to survive. When it moves over land, it dies. But when hurricanes move over Florida, especially when they do so quickly, they kind of think they're still over the ocean. All that swampiness and moisture in the land that it's moving over means this storm will maintain hurricane intensity all the way over Orlando, all the way over Daytona Beach, and into the open Atlantic from there. So even inland areas, we're talking Category 1 winds likely in places like Orlando. And sure, you don't have to deal with storm surge ocean flooding in inland Florida Peninsula, but we have 18 inches of rain that may fall in those same areas, a rare high risk of flooding, the same risk area that we saw in North Carolina with Hurricane Helene.
All right, David Yeomans, thank you very much. You see right now White House Press Secretary Karine Jean.
And we're going to skip past that part and move on up to here.
All local warnings. And a thing that was interesting that stuck out to me was when she said Floridians are no stranger to these types of storms, but, quote, this one is expected to be catastrophic. I want to head over now to Tampa with CBS News national correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti. You are there. Jonathan, I see you getting drenched. I see how much the water behind you is getting rough. Tell us what the situation seems like in Tampa.
Yeah. I just want to pause that for a moment right here. My premise with showing all of this, sharing all of this, is to help to empower you, to help teach you your abilities, your God-given abilities, that we can help humanity, we can be in service to others. So at this time, any of you who have the ability to know how to visualize a shield, let's say like the little globe that goes over top of a snow globe, I want you to shield Florida. I want you to put up a barrier around Florida to help protect them. Because at this point, this storm is almost out of hand. We can continue to try to raise the barometric pressure of the storm to help diffuse it, the hurricane, certainly. We can help to disperse the walls and waves of water that are coming at them. Absolutely. But I also want you to focus on a shield around the entire state of Florida. Shield them like they're inside of a globe, inside of a snow globe. Shield them, put up a barrier so that the waves will be held back, the strength of these winds will be held back. And these people that have had to stay there, and these weather people that are being made to go, National Guard included, they're all there ahead of the storm. Protect them, help to protect them, help to shield them. That is a very, very important thing for us to do if you can visualize that. Just keep seeing a shield around them, a barrier of protection. Okay.
Yeah, hey, Lana, the conditions here deteriorating in just the last hour or so. You can see the bay behind me menacing right now. The rain really starting to come down hard as those outer bands really make their way over us. And we've got wind conditions, gusts at times 30 to 40 miles per hour. We're being told that Milton will make landfall just south of us about 8 o'clock tonight. Tampa, home to a population of 3 million people, all of them under a mandatory evacuation order. Many of them have chosen to heed those warnings, but there are some that we have seen and spoken with that have chosen to ride out this storm. The mayor yesterday, I can't stress this enough with what she said, her choice words: if you choose to stay, you will die. She was specifically referencing the lower lying areas with the many threats, including storm surge, anywhere from now an estimate from 10 to possibly 12 feet, depending on where this storm tracks. That can easily cover where I am standing. Then, of course, you have the high winds. They will be sustained at more than 120 miles per hour. And then, of course, all of the rain, possibly 16 inches. That's going to lead to flash flooding. Conditions will be life-threatening. Crews on standby. In terms of evacuations, the window to evacuate is quickly coming to a close. Our crews who have been staged around this area, we're being told that we got to seek higher ground starting in the next hour or so. The governor in a press conference saying, if you can't make it out, and this is a few hours ago, I think it's going to be too dangerous to really start for a long trek. He's telling people to go to local shelters, and that can't be stressed enough. If you're in a low-lying area, if you are in an older home not built to hurricane code, that's going to be a critical resource going to those evacuation centers, because one of the critical messages with thousands of first responders that are here, they will be taking shelter, and it's unclear how long it will take for them to safely go and provide that life-saving help, Lana.
Absolutely. And when you say something like that quote that you were told, that if you're going to stay and you don't listen to the evacuation orders, you will die, it is worth noting for any of our viewers that you and our team out there are listening to all of those evacuation orders and have taken those necessary precautions as well. So, Jonathan, I'm wondering if you have heard from people who have decided to defy the evacuation orders, who have decided to try and ride it out anyway, or does it really seem like people are listening to how dire these warnings are this time?
I think the majority of people are taking this storm seriously. You just had to look at I-75 in the past few days. They had to expand the lanes from 3 to 5 using the shoulders just to make room for all of the volume of traffic as people were escaping. I spoke with one person who left from Tampa to Tallahassee. It's a trip that should normally take about 4 hours. It took her 16 hours. She chose to leave because she stayed during Hurricane Helene and was terrified. Then there are those that I've spoken with that are choosing to stay because they stayed during Helene and they weren't hit hard. But this is a very different storm. Helene made landfall 200 miles north of us. Even so, it packed 7 feet of storm surge. So now double that. This storm, much more dangerous, Lana.
All right, Jonathan, hopefully you and everyone out there will stay safe.
This is a live cam of my favorite weatherman of all time, Reed Timmer. He's known as the storm chaser from the TV show. Um, he's a brave guy. Apparently, this is locked up. It's not playing the live cam right now. Here it goes. Here it goes. Well, I thought it was going to go. There we are. Now it's going to load. Again, bear with me, technical difficulties, because we have lots of solar flares that are affecting everything right now. We're expected to have radio blackouts today and tomorrow, actually, from the solar flares that are also very large. Let's take a listen.
Warnings, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tornado warnings right now. And on this one is tornado warning for northwestern St. Lucie County. Then we have a tornado warning in effect for a confirmed tornado located near over Vero Beach Highland or near Indrio, moving north at 15 miles an hour. This is the one we just talked about near Wellington. Confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Take cover now. This is another tornado warning, not confirmed, but it is a tornado warning. Get into your safe place. Here is a new confirmed tornado at 8 miles north of Lyon County Safari Park, 13 miles east of Canal Point, moving north at 45.
Now, as for these tornadoes that are happening, we can definitely part the storm and disperse those tornadoes and protect those people from those. Absolutely. We can do that easy enough. So let's start parting storms. Let's start getting on top of these tornadoes, because after these warnings end, there are more coming. They figure between 6 and 8 p.m., when it's in the warmest time of the evening, there are going to be more tornadoes popping off. So let's please stay on top of this and part these storms everywhere that we can. Part the storm. You don't have to physically go outside with a knife or some type of utensil to stab into the ground. You can do this in your mind. You can do this inside your home. You don't even have to be actually holding something. Just hold your fist and stab it to the ground like you're stamping your fist onto the floor, and yell, "Part the storm," while you visualize these tornadoes that are in Florida over top of these different counties and areas. We can absolutely help to do this. The more visuals you get on it, the more eyes you have on it, the better you're going to be able to help part the storms. Okay? So let's stay on top of this and help these folks out, because they've got a lot of stuff coming at them. Now, real quick, I wanted to play this other news clip. If I can get it going. Okay. Let's see if we can get it to play now. Everybody's familiar with Lester?
Where neighborhoods like this still bear the scars of the last hurricane to come through here, Helene. Now the area tonight bracing for what's about to come, Hurricane Milton. Now barely 30 hours away from making a historic landfall here along Florida's Gulf Coast. It could wind up being the strongest hurricane to hit the Tampa Bay area in a century. Officials warning it's an extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation. As expected, Milton's intensity has fluctuated, right now back to a Category 5, which is where we begin tonight with Al Roker and some new tracking updates. What's the latest, Al?
Lester, we are watching this system intensify now. 165 mile per hour winds, Category 5. moving northeast at 9. Now, the track currently brings it a little further south of Tampa, so they may be spared the worst of that storm surge, but it's still going to be bad when we make landfall sometime between 12 and 3 a.m., maybe an hour or so on either side of that. Now, the storm surge is a big deal, 10 to 15 feet south of Tampa, going towards Fort Myers and Sarasota, 5 to 8 feet as you get further south. But as the hurricane exit, it could see a storm surge on the eastern end of Florida. And we're also looking at a high risk of flooding anywhere from Ocala, Orlando, Sarasota. Heavy rain, 18 inches or more. That's going to cause catastrophic flooding. And Lester, also tornadoes possible from Daytona Beach, Sebring, all the way down to Key Largo. Lester?
All right, Al, thanks very much. On the way here today, we saw roads leading out of the flood zones filled with traffic. Many who witnessed what Helene did a few weeks ago complied with mandatory evacuation orders and made their escapes from the storm zone, leaving behind communities like this one, empty and vulnerable.
Okay, I hope that's still playing.
Tonight,
because it's telling me that I've got difficulty.
With a ferocious Category 5 Hurricane Milton heading straight for the Florida Gulf Coast.
You must leave. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm telling you, you must leave.
In vulnerable areas, police blasting out last-minute notices to evacuate.
Quickly secure your home or business and safely evacuate the area.
There are signs many here are heeding the dire warnings.
Absolutely going to leave now. Just taking whatever I can get in my car.
Bumper-to-bumper traffic heading out of town, while some of the region's most iconic communities look like ghost towns. In St. Pete Beach, we found the streets mostly empty today, except for piles of debris from Helene. This is amazing. There's piles of debris everywhere.
It's mountains of debris everywhere, and they seem to be growing.
Fire Chief Jim Kilpatrick took me around to show me what they're up against. This ball field, now a drop zone for debris. The piles of debris in stacks like this here along the barrier islands were actually created in the immediate aftermath of the last hurricane. Officials thought they would have time to get rid of it, but then they found out about Milton. Trucks are staged all over the area to pick up as much as possible before Milton barrels in. But Chief Kilpatrick says there's not enough time to clear it all. This is amazing. This is all collected from the streets of the barrier islands.
That's right. These are all household items that were put to the curb for the first storm. Yeah. And
I'm looking at the 12-inch long stick here. Mm-hmm. This becomes a lethal weapon, doesn't it?
Right. It's a missile with 175-mile-an-hour winds. That could kill someone.
Mexico is already being pummeled by Milton's heavy rain and intense wind. It's the strongest hurricane formed in the Gulf of Mexico since Rita back in 2005. Its stunning scale apparent in this view from space.
It's going to be a catastrophic impact, potentially across two of the major population centers in Florida.
Even inland cities like Orlando expect to be impacted. Disney and Universal both closing their theme parks early tomorrow, while President Biden today announced he has canceled a planned trip overseas in order to focus on the storm.
This could be the worst storm hit Florida in over a century, and God willing it won't be, but that's what it's looking like right now.
And that's exactly why Emily Siegel and Samuel Shearer are leaving. This is debris from Helene. Yeah. They closed on their new home 3 weeks ago, just before Helene roared ashore. What does this house mean to you guys? What does it represent?
I mean, it was going to be like our future, like long-term house. So this is pretty disappointing.
Like so many here in Florida, they don't have insurance.
We're still hoping it goes south, but we're definitely preparing for the worst.
Thankfully, they have another place to stay. They plan, like many others on this island, to leave tonight. And as Milton sharpens its aim, Tampa...
And I just want to say, someone in the chat just said that they've always had a feeling that something horrible was going to happen to Florida. And yeah, I think there are actually a lot of people that have always felt that way. I personally have always felt like California and Florida both are sort of in a bullseye target for utter destruction by the time we get through all of these earth changes. And these visions that I've seen my entire life have certainly lended to that notion. We're going to try to help them get through this best we can. But folks, this is not the end. Once this hurricane is over, it's not the end. This is just the beginning. Our earth is changing, and this is not synonymous to America. This is happening worldwide. 2 days ago, Taiwan had the greatest flood of a century and a storm. There's a hurricane headed for South Africa right now, which is unprecedented. The Sahara Desert and Saudi Arabia have seen so much rain that they now have water spouts coming up out of the sand dunes. I mean, our earth is changing. Our cyclical time of change is upon us that our ancient people tried to write about and warn us about. We're here. We're in the beginning stages of this, and that's why it's so important to me for you to understand who you really are, because we really are who we've been waiting for. If we don't have our power back, if we can't understand who we are as a being and the ability that we have to heal each other, to use our energy to calm storms and heal from pain and broken bones and all of these different things, if we don't understand really who we are, then when all of this stuff starts happening like a domino effect, we're going to feel fearful and we're going to feel powerless, and it's going to take us under like a tidal wave. So I want you to be able to walk in faith of who you are, and that God is with you and that God is within you. This is how we are able to do this, because we are all vessels carrying a piece of that puzzle we call God within us. God gave us this ability. This is your birthright to have this ability and power. We're not going to get into the politics of why you don't know right now, why you've all been raised to not know who you are. The fact remains, you weren't taught. You don't know. And I'm here to show you. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to lend you a hand of confidence and give you the tools that you need and the knowledge of how to use your own tools so that we can make big changes. Because in numbers, we are so strong. We are unstoppable. And God wants to see us help ourselves and each other. God wants that for us. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been given this message and shown these visions my entire life that this is coming. I wouldn't have been shown that we are who we've been waiting for and how to teach you what that means. This is our live cam views from the earth cams. As you can see, the waters are becoming more energetic. I want you to focus throughout this day, throughout this evening, throughout the night if you happen to wake up, and throughout the morning tomorrow. Focus on putting a shield of protection around Florida. Focus on helping to part the storms of these tornadoes, to lessen these walls of waves that are coming to the shores. The wind strengths, the barometric pressure, which must be higher. The higher that barometric pressure is, the less fuel this storm has. When we think about putting cold air and cold water into this hurricane, we want it to come up from the bottom, not the top. Cold air at the top fuels the fire. Cold air from the bottom puts it out. So focus and learn your science about your weather. Learn your science so that you can understand how to better help to part storms, to defuse earthquakes, to calm volcanoes. Because the more science you understand about what makes them do what they do, the better equipped you are to lessen that and to help save people's lives. Because, like I said, this is just the beginning. We're doing crash courses, hitting the ground running, learning who you are. Let's help these people stay faithful, stay strong in your faith, stay strong in the faith of humanity. Let's do this together. All right. I'll be back on later tonight for another update. I love all of you. My heart and prayers goes out to everyone. God bless all of you across this beautiful world. And I will see you again.